All right, welcome back to another one. Brooks, how's it going, buddy?
Oh, it's going well. How are you, Justin?
I am doing well, thank you. Brooks
Yeah.
and I were just talking. We usually talk before and a little bit after we hit record, and then obviously close the recording. We were just talking. I was like, dude, we just need to stop. We need to hit record because we're about to have like a good conversation, and we're not going to hit record. And we've done it like 3 times at least before, and that's 3 times too many. So I was like, we're not
Yeah.
going to make the same mistake.
Are you recording on your end? Okay. Doesn't show up on my end. I just wasn't sure.
Yeah, we're 40 seconds in now.
Cool. That's
Yeah.
good. Just making sure.
I don't know. So I don't know if it's something with the app or what, but anyways, like
Oh,
the other day when we were recording with Tanner, for the listeners, Brooks and Tanner couldn't see each other. I
yeah.
don't know. It's the same app that we're running it through. So I don't know. I watched and listened to most of it. My wife listened to all of it. It sounded good. It looked fine. I could see everything. Editing, it was all good. So I don't know what the deal is. And now I don't know. Things are just acting different than they were 2 weeks ago. So I don't know what the deal is.
I don't know.
Anywho's the whatsies. We
News.
were talking, and it was like, yeah, we just need to hit record because this episode doesn't really have a. I mean, it kind of has a theme. We're gonna talk arrows and archery in general, bows, but I don't know. It's kind of a shoot the bull type type episode. So, Brooks, you were saying you were listening to somebody else talk about archery thing.
Yep. I'll say his name. I was listening to MFJJ. Um, and he started his new series Archery for Dummies. Which is pretty cool. I like that. Especially being still very novice.
Right.
So it's cool to learn. I mean, there's a ton of other guys obviously out there who are very smart when it comes to archery, but I like how he's doing this.
Yeah.
Uh, he was talking about one of them. He was talking about being your own mechanic or um what do you call his tech essentially.
Yeah.
It was like a short one, it was like 8 minutes or whatever. And all of a sudden he started talking about paper tuning, and I just thought to myself, I was like, I just realized I have not paper tuned my new bow. I don't know if the shop I went to did it, but obviously, you want to do it yourself as a
Right.
shooter because everyone shoots differently.
Sure.
Um,
Well, it's, I don't know, in my experience, and I'll preface by saying I have never paper tuned my arrows or my
okay,
bow. And so, um, it's a step that gets skipped by a large number of archers. Like
okay,
I would say 90% of people that shoot a bow and arrow do not paper tune. So
interesting. Okay,
and that's in my experience. I don't think Tanner's ever paper tuned. We've always talked about it, but it's just like not very many people do it, and people still say, "Oh, you should do it. You really need to do it." And so like a lot of people just don't.
interesting. Yeah, because I was super excited to get my bow back when I got it,
Right.
so I didn't really I knew they tuned it up, so my mind just it didn't I didn't even think of it when I left, mostly because I was on call for work and I kind of needed to get out of there because it was storming really bad too. So I kind of just trusted it. I was like, yeah, okay. And I mean,
Right.
it's been shooting fine. I'm not saying it's shooting bad, but I just it just hit me. I was like, I never paper tuned it. And because the last bow, my bear bow that I have, bear archery bow, I got that one paper tuned. Well, the first one, not the second one I got. Um, because I at the previous shop, not Cabela's, but the previous shop I went to, the first one. I'm not going to say who it is, but um, uh, they just gave they're like, yeah, it's tuned to 250 arrows, 71 or 30 and a half draw length, 71 poundage. I was like, cool, sounds good to me. And I kind of just trusted them and just left. Granted, I was trying to get out of there. So, um,
Yeah.
so yeah, that brings me like, what, like, is it just because I bought the bow from somewhere else they didn't want to paper tune it, or is it just you think most of these shops just like just kind of skip it and just call it good? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't. So I've only really dealt with one bow shop, but I feel like I hear the same type of story from a lot of people, just on YouTube and whatever, Facebook and other forums. Um, they just, I don't know if it seems like everybody says similar thing of they go to a shop and it's just like a lackluster experience, and they just kind of tell you, oh no, it's good, and you know, like you said, you'd be your own bow tech, person that works on your own bow, just like you would be your own mechanic working on your car. Like,
Right.
it's not something, it's not common knowledge, a lot of these things. And so, like, to know how to tune a bow, especially your certain bow, these bow techs, they have like certifications and qualifications and things like that that make them good at what they do. And they know a broad range of brands and models and all sorts of stuff. And I don't know, it seems like they take advantage of the fact that they know, and it's the same in like in the auto industry. I feel like they take advantage of the fact that the average Joe doesn't know what to look for and what to ask. And so
Yep.
maybe somebody who is a lot more experienced can walk in and say, hey, I would like this, and this all done. I want my bow tune, I want my draw weight at this, I want my draw length, I want to adjust it by a quarter of an inch, depending on what bow you have. I want my draw length adjusted a quarter of an inch. I don't think it's right. I want the draw weight up 2 more pounds, and then I want to paper tune it, make sure it's right, and like all this other, like all that good stuff. And if you go in and say that, I'm sure it would go okay. Like, it might take a little bit of time and a little bit of money, but let's do
Sorry.
it.
Yeah. That's
But
fine.
I don't know, the average guy walks in, the average archer walks in and says, this is my bow. I need it to work for me. And they're like, okay, cool. And then they string it up, make sure it draws, make sure it doesn't explode in the press while while they're testing the draw weight. And they're just like, oh yeah, you're good to go. Everything's lined up. And or they call you, hey, your bow's ready to go.
Yeah.
All right, cool, sweet. I'm gonna come pick it up, I guess. And you don't really ever question it. You don't say, oh, how'd it shoot through paper? Because you don't need to, like, even though it's your bow, you don't need to shoot it through paper. Like, anybody can shoot it through paper. You can set it up to, I don't know, whatever. Like, it doesn't need to be shot by the person that's actually using it.
Right.
And each bow is going to be different because, one person's arrow might spin clockwise off the string, and another bow will shoot it counterclockwise off the string.
Right.
And that's all dependent on your strings and what have you. And so, I don't know, it's just like, I think they just take advantage of people because they assume, and they assume correctly, that people don't know, and they don't know to ask certain things. And it's not that you
Right.
didn't know to ask, you just didn't think to ask. And they either did it and they're like, oh yeah, like, don't worry about it, we got you covered on all ends, or they're like, he's not gonna know any better. He bought this dude bought his bow off eBay. What's
Right.
he gonna know?
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, that's definitely on me for not asking. I could at least I should have asked, like, hey, did it get paper tuned? Stuff like that. But, so that part's definitely on me for not asking. So I might go this weekend and just maybe get it paper tuned. I want to say so because I put the little peep sight tuner on my bow. They put it on for me this past weekend, and I think they put it on the wrong side. I think it needs to be on the bottom side of the peep, because when I pull it up, it goes the opposite direction I want it to go. But I will say, like, when I've been drawn back, it goes to the straight on. So maybe it's right, maybe it's wrong. I don't know.
Do you
So
have do you have room to pull it down any or no?
no room.
So you're just
So
kind of hoping it doesn't twist the other way.
right.
Which it shouldn't. It's either going to twist one way or not twist at all.
So I don't know. I might just keep shooting it just to see. Because like yesterday when I was shooting 3D, it was fine the whole day. So I didn't have any complaints there. But I don't know.
I gotcha.
Yeah. I mean, part of the reason this is why I want to build my own little bow shop is so I know how to work on my own bow. I don't have to rely on someone else.
Yeah, you can tinker.
Yeah, I can tinker my own stuff. And obviously we need the pro shops, because if we don't have the pro shops, then obviously most people will probably stop shooting a bow in general. Because I mean, the people are busy, and I was reading a couple comments on MFJJ's video, and it was like, oh, I never want to touch my own bow. I just want someone else to do it. That way I don't have to worry about it, type of thing, which is fine. If that's you, that's fine. But I don't know. Personally, I've always wanted to work on my own stuff and learn how to operate and how it's put together and everything like that.
Right. Yeah, no, I would say, again, like 90% of people, like just like almost the same 90% of people that don't shoot their bow through paper probably don't have an at-home shop, quote unquote, or don't ever care to either. There's like,
Right.
That's what the bow shop's for. Something's not right, I'm gonna take it in. You know,
Right.
if for some art, like, it's shooting great for now, like I'm hitting my dinner plate at 20 yards. That's all I need.
Right, exactly. Like, as long as you're in this certain area, people will be like, okay, I'm fine.
Yeah, they don't care about arrow flying straight. They're like, did I hit somewhere in that 10-inch circle? Yes or no? If yes, I don't care. They don't care about arrow flight or any of that stuff. And until they start missing really bad, they aren't ever going to check on any of that stuff.
Right.
And then they're going to be like, hey, what happened to my bow? Something's wrong with it. It won't hit my 10-inch circle anymore, and I'm doing everything right. It's like,
Right.
well, let's go back to the root of the problem of when you first set it up. And like I said, mine hasn't ever been paper tuned, so mine is probably way out of tune. I don't know.
Yep. I mean, now you got MFJJ's shop in your backyard, so now you can go get it checked.
Yeah. So I realized I was Googling, and my brain is in scrambled egg mode a lot of times, so just wasn't thinking. When I was Googling like 4 episodes ago, whatever it was by this point, I was Googling Nashville West or West Nashville archery, and it's Nashville North. And so I was like, why is it not popping up? Why would they not have a website? And so, yeah, it's like Nashville North or North Nashville archery, something like that. So, yeah, Nashville North Archery. They do have a website. So, hand up. I'm the idiot. I'm the idiot. It's all right. That gets said more times than not. So, anyways, yes, they are in fairly close proximity, and I would definitely go to them over there's a couple other bow shops around here that, they're all like straight west of us. I've not heard good reviews on them, and so those guys well, it's not even up north, it's west of Nashville, so it confuses everybody. That's why I thought it was Nashville West. Anyways, right. I will be going to them over the other two every chance I get. If and when I do go over there.
Heck yeah. I'm jealous. Bet you well, I guess we were planning on doing back, but that kind of screwed everything. Not signing up right freaking away.
Yeah, at 12:01. that day.
Ridiculous.
12:01 a.m. It's wild.
It's all right. I'll get out to Nashville sooner or later. So.
Yep. It'll be a good time whenever that happens. Lots to explore. Yeah, I still haven't been to that archery shop. Maybe I should go. Maybe I should go in and be like, hey man, I've had this bow since the year it came out. It was VXR, Matthews VXR, and I'm pretty sure it's never been paper tuned. Can we?
I'm looking to trade it in for the new Lift X.
Yeah, it's a straight swap, right? It's like
straight swap.
Trade. It's like upgrading your phone at AT&T, Verizon, whatever. You're like, I'm due for the upgrade, right? Like it's like part of the plan.
Yeah,
and straight swap. For sure, I'm like the Matthews plan. I think I'm 4 years out. I'm due for the upgrade.
You too, yeah.
I wish. That'd be nice. That would be nice.
Eventually.
All right,
that's why I bought my bows cheap. Just I want to pay freaking arm and a leg.
Right.
Anyways,
we were intending to talk about arrows because Brooks mentioned it last episode or episode before, or whatever that he was on. The arrows he got when he got his bow set up, he just bought them straight from the shop, and they were pre-fletched. Were they just like straight out of the box or whatever there?
Yeah, so they had all their arrows like set up behind the counter, and he just grabbed 10 of them, and they were like this arrow right here where there was no insert or anything yet. So he put an insert and field tip in all of them for me. So yeah, they're pre-fletched and everything.
I gotcha. So he put the tip or the insert in for you.
I believe so.
Did he glue them?
You'd think so. I mean, it definitely feels like it's glued.
Okay. I think that one just fell out.
Yeah, when I was pulling out of a target, a 3D target, it just fell out.
I was gonna say like they would have fallen out your first shot after like pulling out your arrow if they weren't glued in, and I would be very surprised if he left you with 10 arrows without gluing in the inserts.
I would have gone straight there and be like, dude, come on, what the heck? But I think just because it's obviously cold here, I think I just hit it, like this arrow hit a spot that's not really hit often, so I completely missed the target. And I had to like rip it out.
Oh, okay.
And I think that's what happened. Or no, maybe it's either that one. I'd also lost another one. But I think it was either that one. I don't know. Both times, there's two. It was, I had to rip it out, and it's just like, well, that's unfortunate. And then the other time, I definitely hit the metal.
Yes.
I've hit the metal twice on the 3D target, and here's this. One of them, I was able to salvage. The other one, RIP.
Yeah. For the listeners, he showing an arrow, and the tip is all chewed out. Kind of typical of how you would imagine a carbon arrow having splintered right there at the end.
Yep. RIP.
See y'all.
Yeah, but yeah, the arrows I got were, I don't know if I mentioned them, Black Eagle Rampages, 250 spine, .001. Good arrows. I like them.
Yeah. Now, the Black Eagle in general, that's pretty much the first brand arrow I started using consistently. So when I first started shooting, I guess, technically, I just had my dad's. I don't even know what arrows they were, and I don't know if they were cut to the proper length or any of that. But I don't know. There's just the arrows that my dad always had. Tried not to lose a ton because that was all I had. And then when I bought my bow, I also got these arrows. And so those arrows were Black Eagle. And so Black Eagle is like a really reliable arrow company or archery company.
Yeah, that's what the guy who helped me out at the shop was saying, because he was telling me about a couple of them, and he's like, if you just want a a reliable arrow that won't break the bank, go Black Eagle. I was like,
Yeah, they are partnered with, or like they're part of the same family of like Darton bows. They're
okay.
the same family tree of archery products. So yep. So they pretty much just do like the arrows and arrow components, and then obviously Darton will do the bows, and then Conquest Archery. I don't really know much about them, but they're like the third branch of that same parent company. So
I think Conquest makes the quivers and everything.
it probably is. I'm pulling it up right now as we speak, but
I think I could be wrong.
yeah, stabilizers, bow accessories, all that good
So
stuff.
yeah,
So
so they make the accessories. Okay, yeah.
right on. Yeah. So
Yes.
and they're, I believe they're USA made. Question mark. They're based out of Georgia. That's what us. I know that's a fact, but I don't. I know I'm on their website, but I'm on like a specific page to talk about Brooks's arrows because the reason we're bringing it up is Brooks is ordering new arrows from yours truly. So
Yes,
we've been
yes.
talking the last couple of days about, what are you looking for? What are you trying to do? And I know we've talked about it in the past, one of the early episodes, but, as time goes on, you're always tinkering, you're always reevaluating, like, what do you want? What do you really want? And then when it comes down to it, like when you're putting money on the line or like money's coming out of your pocket, it's like, okay, what do you truly want to spend your money on? Is it this or is it something else? Because, arrows are not cheap. Brooks is getting a pretty good deal out of these guys because Black Eagle has kind of rebranded a lot of their arrows, and I think they took their old. I don't think the arrows are any different, like the shafts themselves. I think they just revamped their colors and logos and stuff. Like they're not wraps, but they're just like the design that goes on the arrows. They kind of updated pretty much all of their models.
Gotcha. Okay.
Or all of their arrow sizes and names, whatever. And so there's new art and designs and whatever. And so because of that, they're now putting all of their old art on clearance. New ones obviously are going to be full price. So yeah, so these ones are like more than 50% off, or like right at 50% off normally.
Heck
So
yeah.
yeah, so we were talking and he's like, oh yeah, I got these Rampage and um I like them. They're shooting great and blah, blah, blah. And I sent him the estimate. I was like, yeah, these are going to be like probably this much for the new ones. And he's like, maybe let's find a cheaper version. I was like, okay, we can do that. And so we were looking. We came up with a different one. And like I said, and we stayed in the Black Eagle family because, if you like one, you're probably going to like another and it's going to be similar at least.
Yep.
And so we found one. I think they were the Renegade is what we said.
Renegade, yeah.
And so I was like, all right, we'll go with the Renegade. They're less expensive. They're a little bit bigger diameter. The Rampage are a little more narrow diameter, kind of mid range. They're not quite micros, but yeah, I don't know. They're going to be very similar, but the weight was going to kind of match or be very close to matching. So I was like, all right, we'll be fine. And then tonight, as we were getting on, I was like, hey, dude, these are on clearance. Do you want them?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Now he's got more room in the budget to make them even better somehow.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah, because like I was thinking, when you sent me the estimate, I was like, oh man, I was like, okay, I don't want to spend that much on arrows at the moment. Just because like I'm still tinkering with my new bow and everything, and I'm gonna lose some. I'm gonna break them. I think I'm down to 6 arrows. 2 of them I can salvage, but 2 of them definitely are dead. So I'm down to 6 arrows right now. And it's like, okay, I know right now I'm gonna break some, so I'd rather do cheap arrows right now. And then once elk season comes around, okay, then we'll get a little bit more serious about arrows.
Yeah, for sure. And that's kind of my thought process is between different arrow companies, maybe having clearance sales and Lancaster having maybe a clearance sale. I don't know. They randomly will put products like on like a mega sale just randomly. And sometimes there'll be arrows or whatever. Um, I'm keeping my eye out for, something that fits what I'm looking for what my arrow setup, what I want it to be. And so it's like, eventually when that, because I'm still kind of testing with the idea of it. I haven't put any actual work into it. Like, I haven't physically built an arrow on what I want yet. And so, I'm just looking for like, okay, what's on sale that is kind of cheap enough for me to feel okay with experimenting with it, because I don't want to experiment with a $250 per dozen set of arrows.
Exactly. Well, there's like I'm seeing these like $400 for 12. I'm just like, good lord.
Yeah. No, I mean they can be that. I mean, I was just looking at the X impact arrows, just the shafts, not even. So I don't know why. Oh, it's a 6-pack. That's why. Not even the fletched arrow, like the pre-fletched arrows. Just the 12-pack of shafts is $250 for
Oh,
the X impact.
oh my gosh.
Which I'm like I said, I'm gonna have to do some shopping because that is. Let me see. Yeah, no, it doesn't matter what spine. All the spines are the same price. That is kind of what I want to go with is a micro diameter shaft. And so
Yeah.
for the Black Eagle, which they have other micro diameter shafts, but none of them are cheap. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I saw one of it was like it was like $100 arrows versus $400 arrows today on like YouTube. I think Elkshape did something like that, and I was just like, man, $400 for it. Now I'm sure the farther we get down this rabbit hole, eventually we'll get there.
Right.
Which I mean, we gotta make a little bit more money first too. So
A lot more if that's the case.
yep, for real. Um,
Let me
yeah,
see.
those arrows. No, I'm just saying, if they're $400, those arrows better. If I like completely miss the target, I better swing back around and hit the target.
Yeah, freaking heat seeker at the tip of those things.
Yeah, for real. Oh
So
man.
they've also got Focus, is their other micro diameter shaft, and that one's also 250.
Oh, yeah, not
And
cheap.
they also have Deep Impact, and the Deep Impact they do not make in a 250 spine, and so not going with those. So yeah, if I want to go Black Eagle, uh, I'm gonna have to put a little jangle in the pocket before I get a dozen arrows. So it'll be a while, and plus, like I said, I'm gonna shop around. Black Eagle, I'm not, as Brooks would say, I'm not a homer to Black Eagle, but I do like them. They're very reliable. They make a good product. I like their inserts, um, which we'll talk about with Brooks kind of building out his arrow, but they they got good products, so it's worth the money. But it's like, for my experiment, do I want to put that much money into it? I don't know. So,
Yeah, understand. I mean, yeah, I get it.
yep. So let's talk about your custom build. So you bought the arrows, um, straight out of the box store, whatever, and you could buy them one at a time, right? Or like individually. So you could buy
Yeah,
anywhere from 1 to 17, whatever you want to buy.
yeah. The guy joked with me. He goes, "You could buy one, three, or 1,000." I was like, "Man, you wish I could buy 1,000."
Right, no doubt. Yeah, that'd make his.
But not right. But yeah, you can buy one at a time if you want.
And those are, so typically most people, they'll see them like, you go to Bass Pro, Walmart, your general archery store or whatever, they have them just kind of sitting out. Those are all like pre-fletched. And so most of those I would say 99% of the time, those are all pre-fletched, just straight. So there's no helical, there's no offset, just straight glued on in a straight direction. And so there's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't hurt. It just doesn't help, if that makes sense. So it doesn't do damage by being straight, but it doesn't do anything. It doesn't give you any additional positives. Right. And then the other part of buying them from just straight from the store and kind of grab and go, they're not really cut to length, to your custom length. And so the advantage that Brooks has, what is your draw length, Brooks?
30 and a half.
30 and a half. And so typically your arrow length is going to be pretty much the same length as your draw. And so most arrow shafts are going to be manufactured and distributed at 32 inches long. And so for Brooks, that inch and a half or so difference is really not that big of a difference. Now, for somebody who is 29, 28, so like shorter you go, there's a lot bigger difference the shorter your draw length is based off of a stock arrow. And so that will just lead to your arrow being heavier because there's obviously more material. And for some people, that's a problem. Some people, that's a good thing. It's, that's not for me to decide for you. But it's just not as consistent. That's that much more length of flex in your arrow, which will dictate how accurate your arrow is. So, if you can cut them as short as possible, basically to your draw length, whatever is feasible, the more likely your arrow is going to be accurate and consistent. And so, if you just leave your arrow for, I'm more speaking to a guy or a shooter with a shorter draw length. If you just leave your arrow at that stock 32 inches, you're leaving a lot of room for error. And so, there is a higher chance of error when you just leave your arrows at full length. So, there's that.
Yep. I did buy a set. This was December or something like that, November, December. I bought a 6-pack of Victories, and I did not, at Cabela's, and I did not get them cut or anything. I just shot whatever the length was. And it seemed fine. There were 300s. Then I got told if I want a 70-pound draw weight, I would need to shoot 250s. So I had to switch to 250s. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure that was 32. I have the arrows still, but honestly, they're 300, so maybe I could just practice with them, and it's not a big deal.
Yeah,
but
not a big deal.
Yeah, but I could have definitely gotten cut at Cabela's too, but at the same time, I did not know at that time. So.
Yeah, no, and that's totally okay. And I really haven't bought arrows from a bow shop or anything like that, especially recently. Well, especially in the last year of having a business. So, I really don't know how that process works. Obviously, they would probably be like, "Oh yeah, we'll cut it real quick for you," and then.
Yeah, the Bear Creek cut my Black Eagles for me. So.
Okay, yeah. So for you, it worked out fine. You're buying it from a bow shop. I would hope that they would be like, "Oh yeah, hey, what's your draw length? Oh, okay, let's cut this to length." You would hope. But yeah. So, and then they didn't add any extra weight. They just had for Black Eagle. They, like I said, they have pretty good stock inserts, and so they just went with the stock inserts for you as well. Nice. So we were talking, and Brooks didn't really know, and I tried to explain it over text, and so I don't know if I did a great job. It's just every insert is different, so you basically, it comes down to how long the insert is. And so for these Black Eagles, the Rampage, the ones that they give stock, they're the Bone Crusher Let me see. Yeah, the Bone Crusher half outs. The stock ones are stainless steel. They make a titanium or platinum or something like that, which is heavier. For the people that really care about arrow weight or want heavier arrows, what have you, higher FOC, yada yada. Half outs is they're basically the same length, but half of that insert is outside of the arrow, as opposed to most standard inserts are going to be like a sliver, not even like 1/8 of an inch is out of the arrow, and the whole rest of the insert is inserted into the arrow. And again, yada yada. So Black Eagle makes a half out where, like I said, half of the material is outside of the arrow. And what's nice about those, and they call it Bone Crusher, it just provides a little bit more sturdiness. You know, when you're shooting your bow into a 3D target and you happen to hit the metal rod, metal on metal with a piece of carbon behind it, doesn't really fare well for the carbon ever. It doesn't. People can say that X arrow brand is going to be, oh, it doesn't matter. It can go through cinder block. Well, maybe, but I don't want to test it out. There's people that do, but you know, I don't care to try it all that often. But these, I've never had a problem with them. They're really good, really sturdy. So the whole idea, the Bone Crusher, they're going to be strong enough to go through bone. If you hit low or whatever, the animal turns, what have you, you hit a femur, you hit a hard, heavy bone, as opposed to, a rib or something, which is, we've talked, like a smaller, brittle, thinner bone. If you're hitting a bigger bone, you're not just relying on that carbon to stay strong going through a bone. You're having that metal be strong for it first. So I like their inserts. Like I said, I'm never going to tell, unless somebody's like, hey, I don't know where to go, where to start. I will probably just keep it stock so somebody can be like, oh yeah, that's good, or like close to stock. But for me, like, and that's kind of how Brooks is for now, is like, oh yeah, I'm like, I want to stay pretty close to stock, and this is still different than his last set, but um, eventually maybe he'll tinker with heavier or what have you. For me, I would go with a heavier one. Like I said, they're the Black Eagle. They make the same half out, but in like platinum or something like that, heavier material. All that does, it's the same idea, same purpose. It's just heavier, and so it adds weight at the end of the arrow. Heavier FOC, which helps with penetration and flight, basically. So it doesn't make it fly that much better. It's more about penetration for FOC.
So, question for you. So it's like, I know guys, the different grains for arrows and everything. I guess, how do you get, is it just like the shaft? Because like if someone say like, because my arrows right now are around like 510, 515, kind of right in between there, for grain. But if I wanted to do like a 400 grain, would like the shaft have to be skinnier?
Yeah.
How does that work?
So if you wanted to drop weight, you would have to go down to a less like a more flimsy spine, a less stiff spine, which you don't want to do because your draw weight, yada yada. So
Right.
The reason being, and maybe I take a screenshot of just this arrow to show the listeners as well. But and I wish I could screen share, and I'm not going to show with the camera. Each spine has a different, so for these Rampage, Black Eagle Rampage, they have 250, 300, 350, 400 spines. Their inner diameter is going to be the same on all of those, 0.204 inches. The outer diameter, and Brooks and I kind of talked about this off recording as well, but the outer diameter is where the variance is. So it's going to be thicker because it's stiffer, or stiffer because it's thicker. Depends. I don't know. Ipso facto, they're the same thing.
Right.
250 spine is going to be thicker, 0.276, and your 400 spine is going to be thinner, 0.253. So the outside diameter is bigger. Think about like dime versus penny, or penny versus nickel.
Right.
Your dime would be your 400 spine, your penny would be 250 spine. If that gives you an idea. Just say,
That makes
but
sense.
if they were the same thing, but they just like take the value of money out of it, just diameter wise, they're the same thing, just bigger. So because of that, now you have more material, and it makes your outer diameter bigger when your spine is stiffer. So that 250 spine, you're then going to look at grains per inch. So your 400 spine, this is the most flimsy, is 7 grains per inch. And then your 250 spine is 10.7 grains per inch. So, basic math, simple math, I guess you could say, that number, so 10.7 times the length you want the arrow cut at, which for Brooks would be that 30.5. I had done the math earlier. I have it on I think I have it on the spreadsheet. 30.5. Yeah. So 30.5 times 10.7. I don't have that number, but you take that number, and that's your just raw grains just of your arrow. So I'll put it into what did I say? 30.5 times 10.7. So that number would be 326.35. So that's just carbon and whatever's on the arrow, like the designs or whatever, the label.
Right.
So then with that, you then go, okay, what else do you need for your arrow to be complete? You need a nock, you need fletchings, you need an insert, and you need a point, like a field tip, broadhead, some sort of point to penetrate. So going backwards to forwards, you need a nock. Nocks are typically going to be, your non-lighted nocks are going to be like 7 grains, typically. And I believe that's what the stock nock is here. So for rampage nock or rampage arrows, the size is size R. R nocks are going to be 7 grains a piece. And then so that you add that to that number that we had mentioned earlier, 326 and change. So then you add 7 because you need a nock. And then fletchings. Brooks before had gone three fletchings. He wants, what do you want this time?
4.
4 fletchings. So
4.
So 4 fletchings. And again, this is kind of experimental for him. The ones he has now are 3 fletch. The ones that I made him before were also 3 fletch. I use 4 fletch. It just adds, so it adds weight, which isn't necessarily the primary goal. It's more about what the fletchings do. It induces spin, and especially when, or like rotation, I guess you could say spin. The way that I orient the fletchings is on a helical. And so when your fletching is on a helical, that will induce more spin. And so when you have 3 of them, it will induce more spin than a straight orientation on your fletchings. And then if you have 4 of them, it will do even more, especially with all 4 of them being on the helical, which if you're going to do one, you do all of them the same. And you have them all in the same direction. So, yeah. So Brooks wants 4. So I believe the veins he wants, which we had talked about, are the Q2I. Oh, I forget. Q2I or QI2. Sorry, QI2 brand. Those are 7.5 grains a piece. So then 7.5 times 4, 30 something, whatever. So then you add that number into it. So it's 326 plus that 30 something plus 7 for the nock. And then moving forward, okay, Brooks doesn't want an arrow wrap, right? So basically it's a wrap that goes underneath where your veins go. Usually it's for like design. Some people do have a purpose for them. They have some that are like reflective. So like when you're hunting, low light, you shine a flashlight on them, they reflect back at you. I don't know. Some people use them, some people don't. I don't. It's what have you. All personal preference, but that adds weight. And so skip that for Brooks. Now, moving forward, the next thing that you have to think about is your insert. The inserts that come stock with these, like we had talked about, are those bone crusher half outs, and those are 50 grains a piece. Those are stainless steel. I don't know if I'll pull it up real quick. So they make back weights, which you can add weight into the back end of that insert. I don't know if they make a lighter insert than that. So when you're talking about Black Eagle and Black Eagle Rampage, you're probably not going to end up with a lighter insert.
Right.
So that 50 grains is baseline. You're not going to be able to go lower than that on an insert. You can go heavier because of different material, or you can add back weights, or both. And that's all, again, personal preference. So then you add that 50 in. So by that point, you're talking, 370, something like that. And then, or almost close to 400 with all that stuff that we just talked about. And then, then by that point, you add in whatever tip you're talking about, and it doesn't really matter. But each person is going to have their broadhead weight or field tip weight. And Brooks, what weight do you shoot? 100 grains. So then you would add 100 grains on top of that. So you're at 515. Immediately take away that 100 grains, you're at like 415 of just raw arrow weight. And so for these Rampage, you would like all that to say, go back into the question you started this with, you would have to completely change what spine you would use in order to get down to like a 400 some grain. You might be able to find an insert that would fit that arrow if you really liked that shaft and that diameter, whatever. If that were the case and you really wanted to go down to a 450, something like that, I would say maybe find a different brand arrow, or maybe a different arrow that is a 250 spine. That if it's Black Eagle and it has that 0.204 inside diameter, which they only have two. They have that and Renegade. Rampage and Renegade, those are only 204 inside diameter. And so, and like we had talked about, the Renegade are basically the same, just a little bit bigger the outside.
Gotcha. Okay.
And the Renegades are heavier. So you would not, at 250 spine, you would not be able to do under 500.
Interesting.
For at least for that setup, and those brand arrows. Yeah, so I think that's kind of where arrow manufacturing is trying to go, because people want a stiff arrow that doesn't weigh a lot. People want to shoot heavy, draw length or draw weight, but they don't want to shoot heavy arrows. And that's where I believe I'd have to do a quick research. UV 1K arrows, those are they're supposed to be like the lightest, stiffest arrow. So they got a 250 spine. Yeah.
It's UV.
Yeah, I mean, everything they make is expensive, but apparently their quality is really good. So Yeah,
that's what I've heard.
I just really want to know their grains per inch. I don't. Anyways, I believe the whole idea of the UV Ultra View 1K arrows is that they are supposed to be a lighter arrow, but they're just as stiff, lighter weight, uh, so that somebody who wants to have a 250 spine can have a 450 grain arrow with whatever, like 100 grain tip and all that included.
Okay, that makes sense.
I really wish I could find where it says their grains per inch. Okay, so even their 250s are 10 grains per inch. So I mean they're only 0.7 lighter, which it really adds up when you multiply it by 30.5, but they're not that much lighter. You'll be able to get under 500 probably at that point, but you're not going to be able to get 450. Your 250 is fine.
Interesting. Well, learned something new today.
Yeah. And I mean, I know Brooks asks my opinion a lot, and whether he wants to listen to me on some of it, great. If he doesn't, I don't care. But
Purdue, just kidding.
if he were to take my opinion on one thing, I would, I guess, emphasize to him the arrow weight going heavier would be better. But again, that's opinion, and it's something that you just have to see for yourself on what you prefer, because you can watch everybody on YouTube. Everybody in the world has an opinion on it, pretty much. They'll say, I don't care about arrow weight. It can be as light or as heavy as I want. It all matters about where you hit it. Great.
Right.
Good for you. That's your opinion. There's other people that, I guess you can say Ranch Fairy's the one extreme of it needs to be a heavy arrow. That's the only way of being foolproof, which I'm kind of more in that boat of, if you're heavier, you're going to penetrate, you're going to get through. It doesn't matter. Like plan A is not always going to happen. Right. Best case scenario almost never happens. And when it does, it's like, hallelujah, the stars aligned. It must be Christmas in July. Like,
yeah.
It is never exactly as planned. So planning for worst case, or being prepared for worst case scenario, planning for best case scenario. But and it also depends on what you hunt. So a guy who's talking about, you're going through the woods, the elk woods, you're not really going to want a 650, 700 grain arrow, because it is slower. It's heavier, so it's going to be slower. And, to get through the woods, you're going over maybe a downed tree, under some hanging limbs, something like that, while you're ground level with this elk. You don't really, if you're going to have to take more than 50-yard shot, your arrow arc is going to be pretty significant. And so your line of sight, your aim point is going to be higher. And in order to get it to hit that target, and, heavier arrow, the more you got to aim up, and it's, you just don't have that kind of room in certain scenarios. For somebody like me, who is pretty much whitetail only, 95% of my shots are going to be 25 yards and in, and I'm shooting from an elevated position down on an animal. Like, I'm pretty much safe to go 800 grains if I really wanted to. Like, I have I don't need to loft an arrow out to an animal. If I do, I found myself in an awful situation. And so, like, for me, it's like arrow weight doesn't really matter that much. I want what's going to penetrate the best, which you got to find that fine line, whatever the magic number is. Research is being done on it, yada, yada. But Yeah, it all boils down to opinion and what situation you actually find yourself in most often. So for like a person who is like you, I would say, I don't know, I'm not trying to tell you how you need to be, but what I would recommend, if you're doing elk, you're gonna maybe do whitetail, mule deer, spot and stock, maybe in a tree, elevated positions. Like you're gonna do anything and everything. Find that happy medium, and you can be able to do both. Like
Right.
if you need to take a 70-yard shot at a bull elk because it's a bull of a lifetime and it's the best, he's sitting still for 5 minutes and he's going to sit still for 10 minutes more and you can put a good shot on him, but you just need it to be a little bit faster of an arrow, 500 some grains, perfect. It'll do
Yeah.
the job.
Yeah.
But and a 700 grain arrow will not in that type of situation, you know. And then you can also use that same 500 some grain arrow and you can go sit in a tree, shoot down on a big old whitetail buck, and you'll get the job done.
Right.
And so for those people,
Interesting.
it's like, I feel like those are the types of hunters, the guys who do a little bit of everything. They're the ones who are like, oh, arrow weight doesn't matter. Well, it kind of does. It depends on where you're aiming. Yes, it does always depend on where you're aiming, but
Right.
you're able to pull all this off because you're in the right window of arrow weight.
That makes sense. Yeah, I mean, I was just asking if I ever wanted to go down to 400 for like 3D or something, if I what I would have to do essentially. But I'd probably stick with where I'm at,
Yeah.
515 or so.
No, and honestly, and for 3D, uh, if you were doing it competitively, I would want to like have a total redesign and reconsider like maybe what your draw weight is so that you can go down to a lighter spine, and
Oh
maybe a
yeah, I
bigger
guess
bigger arrow and
that's
stuff like
true. I
that.
could go down and draw weight and then get a lighter arrow. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So you could do that stuff. And then, but arrow weight also, and Range Fairy talks about it. I haven't really been following much. He's kind of taken a little bit of a lull on his content, which is fine. But like at one point, they were talking about doing research on like arrow flight and just quality of arrow flight, and that arrow flies better at certain weights or what have you, and lengths and stuff like that, proportionate to the draw length. Tons of scientific stuff that is just like way over my head. And it's like, give me the spark notes and tell me what the answers are on what you come up with, because I'd love to hear it, but I have no clue. Um, there's like, in theory, there's like a sweet spot of how much your arrow should weigh so that it can fly better. And so with that in mind, it's like, okay, yeah, faster is more straight, heavier is more loft, but what's like ideal to arrow flight in 3D as opposed to what have you? Because, when you're shooting 3D competitively, it's not like tack where you have like tree stumps in the way and branches that you can run into, like hit on your way through, what have you. If the target is X yards away and you are trying to hit either a 10 or 12, and if you miss, you get 8, 5, or 0. And it's like, at that point, it's like you have no other factors other than nature and your arrow and your arrow flight. So you don't have to worry about nature being wind, humidity, temperature, stuff like that, which wind and rain are like the biggest impact on flight, but they're not super impactful. Wind, obviously, crosswind or whatever, but have I rambled enough for you, Brooks?
I think so.
I
Okay, that
freaking
was good. That was
I got
good.
to ramble in there, so hopefully
It's
it all
okay.
makes
That was
sense.
good. Yeah, that all makes sense to me. Hopefully, it makes sense to the listeners. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if I was spitting knowledge or if I was just spitting nonsense, but
Comment below if you what you think Justin was doing there.
Like I said earlier, I am an idiot. I am an idiot. Hand up. You can tell me. I will own it. I will own the fact that I am not the most intelligent person. I cut grass for a living and dig holes, okay? That's what I do. I am not a genius.
Okay, neither am I.
So I hope it makes sense, and if I'm wrong, tell me in the comments. I probably won't listen to you, but if I'm really wrong, then I don't know. Send me some peer-reviewed articles, and I'll block you. I don't know.
Peer review. Blocked, insta block.
Yeah. I used to enjoy peer-reviewed article, like that's sweet. Like that way, it's like it's teaching me stuff. The more I've heard, it's like, if it's peer reviewed, it's just the same people with the same ideas that are just trying to elevate a certain thought. I don't know. Conspiracy theory, but
Conspiracies.
Huge conspiracy theorist.
Yeah. Well, I thought that was a pretty good episode today.
Yeah, I obviously enjoy talking about arrows, and we really didn't get into what I wanted to shoot, but that's totally okay. That saves us for another episode on, when we talk about what I'm going to build. I alluded to it. I want to go micro diameter, but I don't know. We can micro diameter with heavy weight is going to be interesting, but that's what I want.
We'll go a part 2 for the episode then.
Yeah, maybe 4 months from now when I have a little more jangle in the pocket.
Yeah, right. For real.
Yep. So, I don't know. Any closing thoughts there, Brooksy?
I got one of these pocket quivers.
Pocket quiver.
Yeah.
So when you asked, so again, Brooks and Tanner and I have a group chat, talk about the podcast or just talk about random things. Usually it's about random things. Very rarely is it about the podcast, but Brooks will ask us like, "Hey, do you guys have one of these? Should I get one of those? What do you guys think about this?" And we'll give our opinions. And like I said, who knows if he actually listens to us, but he's like, "Do you guys have a pocket quiver?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, I've got this like quiver that goes like on my hip." And I didn't register pocket quiver. I just saw quiver as in not attached to the bow. I was like, "Oh yeah, I've got one of those. They're awesome." And you're like, "Oh, I ordered it." I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." Then you took a picture and sent it, and I was like, "What the hell is that?" I was like, "Oh, it's an actual. It goes in your pocket,
in the back of your pocket." Yeah. For those of you, I took the sticker off while we were talking because I like to fiddle with things when we talk. Look at that ass. I get they're trying to show off the quiver, but
yeah, put it back up so I can describe it to the listeners. I'm not going to describe the
not sure if it's a guy or a girl.
Yeah, so they have the pocket quiver in. It's got to be a girl, but in the back pocket of a person holding a bow, and they've got arrows in the quiver. But they just picked it's all zoomed. Like it's not a full scale of the person. It's just zoomed in on the butt, and you can see the quiver, and like that's it. So it's like really making the point that it's a pocket quiver, and it goes in your back pocket.
Yep.
I mean, it wouldn't make sense to put it in your front pocket anyways. But
yeah, it wouldn't make
sense.
Guess
you got to make those things clear to some people.
I guess so. So yeah, I saw because I watched MFJJ's like Archery for Dummies series, and he said to get a pocket quiver, and I never even thought about that before because he's kind of right. When you are shooting like 3D or something, it is very tedious to keep putting your arrows back into your normal quiver that you use to hunt. And I was like, huh. So I'm going to try it tomorrow when I go shoot. I'm going to take my quiver off that I have on my bow and just shoot the bow and no quiver and just have this pocket quiver, see how it goes.
Yeah, that's also a reason people use a pocket quiver, is because they don't want the weight on their side of their bow, especially competitive shooters. They don't want that weight over there. They are very particular about what weight is on. We were talking about, we never mentioned his name, but his name's Tim Dillingham. He's the guy who had the back stabilizers left and right, and a giant front stabilizer. He had 3 stabilizers. But like in general, competitive shooters are very particular about what where the weight is and how much is in each spot. And so like to have your quiver on while you're shooting competitive is like wasted weight, wasted added weight. And it's on that side of the bow that you have to counter or whatever.
Right.
But to your point, 3D shooting, it is just more convenient to be like, if you're just doing target practice, just whip them out of the back pocket or out of that side quiver.
Right. Exactly.
10 at a time, just let them go.
Yeah, I definitely would like to get a hip quiver eventually, but they're like $180.
My dad had one. I think it was cheap, like a super cheap one, but it works great. It's got just 3 slots, and you can put like 10 arrows in each, or probably more.
Nice.
And so it's just like when we're practicing, I think Tanner gets annoyed with me because he doesn't have very many arrows, and I just have like 2 dozen. And I'm just like, and he's just like on his phone waiting for me. I'm like, oh, do you want to go pull arrows? Oh yeah, okay. Like I just lose track because I got freaking like 20 of them.
Funny. Yes. You got any closing thoughts?
I did, and then I totally forgot what I was gonna say. But yeah, no, it was a good episode. Like I said, I like to kind of nerd out on arrows sometimes, and it's good stuff.
It's good stuff.
Yeah, so I appreciate you guys listening, and we haven't mentioned it in a while. Go ahead and leave a review, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Let us know what you think, and keep coming back for more. Appreciate you guys listening. We'll catch you on the next one.
Thanks for listening, guys.
See ya.
Later.